It started with a box. A dusty old box I hadn't touched in years. I was sitting on the floor of my small flat, surrounded by old receipts, broken mugs, and forgotten things from a better life. I only opened the cupboard because the cold was keeping me awake, and I needed something to do. My flat felt smaller in the winter, and every corner held a memory I was trying to forget. But that box held something I didn't expect. Inside were a few old photographs, a necklace, and a notebook with a green leather cover. My Aunt Marie's name was on it. She had passed away 5 years ago, and I hadn't thought about her in a long time. She was the kind of woman who always smiled too much, always spoke about energy and power of the mind. We all thought she was strange, but kind. I opened the notebook and read the first page. It said, "Your thoughts create your life. What you believe is what you receive." I smiled sadly. It sounded like something she would say. I almost closed the book, but something in me wanted to read more. The next pages were filled with short sentences like, "I am strong. I am lucky. Life is working for me." Every page was written in her careful handwriting, full of belief and warmth. I didn't believe in any of it, not really, but I kept reading anyway. That night, I could not sleep. I lay in bed thinking about her words. I thought about the bakery I used to own, the one I opened with so much hope. I worked hard for years. I was proud of it. Then things started to go wrong. Sales dropped. Rent increased. And when the business closed, my husband said he needed a break. His break turned into divorce papers a few months later. Now, it was just me and the quiet. The next morning, I made tea and sat near the window. It was still raining. I opened the notebook again. One page said, "Speak it. Feel it. Live it. Your life listens." It sounded silly, but I spoke it out loud. "I am strong," I said. My voice was weak. I felt like I was lying. I didn't feel strong. I felt tired and sad. Still, I said it again. "I am strong. I am lucky. Life is working for me." The words felt strange in my mouth, but also warm. I didn't know what I was doing, but I decided to try something new. I found an old notebook of my own and wrote 3 things. I want peace. I want to feel useful. I want to smile without pretending. Then I closed the book and made some toast. For the next few days, I kept reading from Aunt Marie's book. Each time I read a line, I wrote something new in mine. I wasn't sure why I was doing it. I didn't expect anything to change. But slowly, something inside me began to shift. I noticed my thoughts more. I caught myself saying things like, "I can't do this," or "Nothing ever gets better." When I heard those words in my mind, I remembered the book. So I tried to change them. I started saying, "I'm learning," or "I'm still here, and that's something." One afternoon, I was walking to the small shop at the corner when I saw a sign in the window of a cafe. They were looking for part-time help. Normally, I would have walked past without even thinking. But something in me whispered, "Just ask." So I went in. The place was warm and smelled like cinnamon. A young woman behind the counter smiled at me. Her name was Isla. I asked about the job. She looked surprised but friendly. We talked for a while, and she told me the manager would call me the next day. When I walked home, I felt strange. Not excited exactly, but a little less empty. That night, I lit a candle and sat by the notebook again. I wrote, "I tried something new today. I didn't let fear stop me. It was a small thing, but it felt important." I read one of Marie's lines again. "The smallest action, with the right belief, can change your direction." The manager called the next day. His name was Leo, and he asked me to come in for a short trial. I hadn't worked in over a year. I was nervous, but I said yes. I told myself, "I am ready." I didn't feel ready, but I said it anyway. The day of the trial, I stood in front of the cafe door with my hands shaking. But when I went inside, Isla waved at me and showed me what to do. It was simple. Wipe tables, take orders, smile. My body remembered how to move. My voice remembered how to be polite. And after 2 hours, Leo said I could start next week. I walked home with tired legs, but a quiet joy in my chest. It wasn't the bakery. It wasn't mine. But it was a step. That night, I looked in the mirror and whispered, "Thank you." I didn't know who I was talking to. Maybe to Marie. Maybe to myself. Maybe to the part of life that hadn't given up on me yet. In the days that followed, I made a new habit. Each morning, I wrote 3 things I was thankful for, even if they were small. Warm tea, clean socks, a soft pillow. And each night, I wrote one thing I was proud of. I had never done that before. For years, I only saw my mistakes. Now, I was learning to see something else. It wasn't magic. Life was still hard. Bills didn't disappear. My heart still ached sometimes. But there was a softness around the pain now, like a light in a dark room. I started smiling at strangers again. I started walking without looking down. One evening, Isla asked me if I wanted to come to a small gathering at her flat. "Nothing big," she said. "Just tea and music." I almost said no. I didn't feel like I belonged. But something in me said, "Say yes." So I did. That night, I met 3 other women, all with different lives, all carrying their own pain. But they were kind. We talked and laughed. It was the first time in months that I felt seen, not as a broken woman, but as someone real. When I came home, I sat with Marie's notebook. I touched the cover gently and whispered, "I think I understand now." The cafe became my new world. Each morning, I put on the soft brown apron, tied my hair back, and stepped behind the counter like I belonged there. The job was simple, but it gave me something I hadn't felt in a long time: purpose. I wasn't baking like I used to, but I was still around coffee, people, and warmth. I had missed this more than I realized. Isla and I quickly became friends. She was 24, full of energy and kindness. She talked fast, always had stories, and often made me laugh without meaning to. She called me Jules, and I didn't mind. It felt nice, like someone cared. She didn't know much about my past, and I didn't talk about it. I just enjoyed the present, one cup of tea at a time. One morning, Isla surprised me. "You've changed since you started," she said, handing me a tray of clean mugs. "When I first met you, your eyes looked tired. Now, you glow a little." I laughed and shook my head. "Glow? I think it's just the cafe lights." But deep inside, I knew what she meant. I had felt it too. Something inside me was opening again. Every evening after work, I walked home with quiet steps. I passed the same streets, the same trees, but they looked different now. Not because they changed, but because I had. I started noticing small things. A child's laugh from a window. The way the sun hit the top of a red brick wall. A stray cat that always sat on the same step. Life was still hard, but I was learning how to see beauty again. One Sunday afternoon, I opened the green notebook again. I hadn't read it for a week, but now I was ready. The page said, "You attract what you believe. Your energy creates your future." I closed my eyes and thought about it. Was I really changing my future? Or was I just lucky? I didn't know for sure, but I knew this. I felt different. I was no longer waking up with heavy sadness. I was starting to hope. I decided to test it. I wrote a new goal in my notebook. I want to bake again. Not for money. Just for love. I didn't have a kitchen like before, but I still had my hands, my heart, and my old recipes. I pulled out a dusty recipe book and smiled at the notes in the margins. My handwriting from years ago. Small reminders like, "Add cinnamon if it's raining," or "Smile before you stir." I went to the local shop and bought flour, sugar, and a block of butter. My kitchen was tiny, the oven slow, but I didn't care. I tied a tea towel around my waist like an apron and began to bake. As the sweet smell of banana bread filled the room, my eyes filled with tears. Not sad tears, just memory tears. This was part of me, a part I thought I had lost. I brought some to the cafe the next day. Isla took one bite and said, "You made this?" "Jules, this is heaven." Leo, the manager, agreed. "You should bake for us. Seriously, we can sell this." My heart jumped. I wasn't ready to be a businesswoman again, but the idea made something inside me light up. "I'll think about it," I said, trying to stay calm. That evening I wrote, "I am still useful. My hands still create joy." I also wrote, "I am open to new chances." The next week, Leo offered to let me bake once a week for the cafe. No pressure, no stress. Just bring what I like and they'd sell it. I said yes. The first day I delivered a small tray of muffins, I stood by the door and watched a woman take a bite. She smiled, closed her eyes, and nodded. That small moment filled me with more peace than I had felt in months. Life started to move forward slowly, one small win after another. But not every day was perfect. One cold Thursday, the cafe was quiet. Isla had called in sick, and I was alone behind the counter. A man came in who looked like someone from my past. For a second, I thought it was my ex-husband. My heart jumped. I felt my hands shake. But when he looked up, I saw it wasn't him. Still, the feeling stayed. I started thinking about the past again. The pain, the failure, the way he left when I was already broken. My chest felt heavy. That night, I couldn't sleep. I lay awake, staring at the ceiling. The old thoughts returned. Maybe you're not really strong. Maybe this happiness won't last. I wanted to cry, but I didn't. Instead, I got up, made tea, and opened the green notebook. I read the first line I had seen weeks ago. "Your thoughts create your life," I whispered. "Okay. Then tonight, I choose peace." I opened my own notebook and wrote, "Even when old pain comes back, I don't have to stay there." I wrote, "I am moving forward." The next day felt easier. I had learned something important. The work was inside me, not outside. Even when life felt heavy, I could choose my next thought. I couldn't control the past, but I could control what I said to myself now. 2 weeks later, Isla invited me to her birthday dinner. I almost said no. I hadn't been to a party in years. I didn't know what to wear or how to act. But I heard that small voice inside me again. Say yes. So I said yes. The dinner was in a small flat filled with music and laughter. People danced in socks, sat on the floor, and shared stories. I was the oldest there, but no one seemed to care. A man named Tomas asked me about my baking. I told him a little, and he said his sister was starting a small weekend market and looking for people to join. My heart beat fast. "I used to run a bakery," I said, "but I'm not sure if I can do that again." He smiled, kindly. "You don't have to do it again. Just try something new with what you already love." That night, walking home, I thought about it for a long time. Maybe it was time to try something bold. Not like before. Not to prove anything. Just because I still had something to give. At home, I opened my notebook and wrote, "I want to join the weekend market. I want people to taste my food and feel joy." I didn't know if it would happen, but I believed it could. That belief felt like a door opening. Over the next days, I started baking more. I tried new recipes, tested small things. I asked Isla to be my taste tester, and she took the job very seriously. I made lemon tarts, oat cookies, soft bread with rosemary. My kitchen became my heart again. I called Tomas and said, "I'm ready to try." He gave me a small spot on the corner table for the next market day. I prepared the night before with care. I packed my baked goods, printed a small sign, and even found an old tablecloth with flowers on it. It wasn't perfect, but it was mine. The morning of the market was sunny and cool. I stood behind the table, nervous but proud. People came slowly. Some smiled, some stopped and tasted. One woman said, "This reminds me of my grandmother's baking." That simple sentence stayed with me all day. By the end of the market, I had sold almost everything. I walked home with an empty basket, full heart, and tired feet. I laughed quietly to myself, not because of the money. It wasn't much, but because I had done something I thought I couldn't do again. That night, I didn't write just 3 things. I filled 2 whole pages. I wrote, "I am no longer the woman who hides from life. I am the woman who tries." I wrote, "I am alive again." As I closed the notebook, I looked out the window. The moon was full, the street quiet. I pressed my hand to my chest and felt it. Not just my heartbeat, but something deeper. A quiet power. For the first time in a long time, I believed that maybe, just maybe, my best days were not behind me. 2 months passed. I continued working at the cafe, baking for the market, and writing in my notebook every day. Life was still not perfect, but it was full again. I had small routines, warm tea in the morning, quiet walks in the evening, and moments in between where I truly smiled. I no longer felt invisible. People at the cafe called me by name. Customers at the market came back asking for the same cookies or muffins. It was as if the world had remembered me. Or maybe I had remembered myself. One Tuesday afternoon, something unexpected happened. A woman walked into the cafe and stared at me for a long second. Then she said, "Julia?" I looked up, unsure. She stepped closer. "It's Anna. From school. We haven't seen each other in, 20 years? Suddenly I remembered Anna, my old friend from childhood, the one who used to sit beside me in maths and share her lunch with me when I forgot mine. We sat and talked during my break. She told me she had moved back to town recently after a long time abroad. Her mother was ill, and she had returned to take care of her. "It's been hard," she admitted. "But seeing you here, it feels like a small gift." I smiled. Life has a strange way of bringing people back. After that day, Anna and I began meeting once a week, sometimes at the cafe, sometimes at the small park nearby. We talked about everything: the past, our mistakes, our hopes. I told her about the bakery I lost, the marriage that ended, and how I had found my way back through a green notebook and a part-time cafe job. She listened without judgment. When I finished, she said, "You know, you're brave. Most people would have just given up." I shook my head. I almost did. But I learned that giving up is a choice. And so is starting again. One Saturday morning at the market, a man stopped by my table. He looked around 50, with kind eyes and a quiet smile. He picked up a slice of lemon tart and said, "My mother used to make something like this." He bought 2 pieces and stayed a while, chatting about baking, books, and rainy days. His name was Daniel. He worked at the local library and said he loved sweet things. I laughed. "Then you've come to the right table." He returned the next Saturday, and the one after that. Each time he brought something. A new book for me to read, a story from his childhood, or just his warm, calm presence. We started walking together after the market. At first, I kept my distance. I had learned not to trust too quickly, but Daniel never rushed me. He listened more than he spoke, and when he laughed, it felt like sunshine on a cloudy day. One afternoon, we sat on a bench near the river. The water was quiet, moving gently like my heart had begun to. Daniel looked at me and said, "Do you ever miss the old days?" I thought for a moment. I used to. I used to think my best days were already behind me. But now, I think they might be happening now. Slowly, quietly. He smiled. "I think you're right." Something shifted that day. Not just between us, but inside me. I wasn't afraid anymore. I had spent so long feeling broken, like a puzzle missing too many pieces. But now I saw that I wasn't broken at all. I was just changing, growing, becoming someone new. That evening, I opened my notebook and wrote, "I trust myself again. I trust life." I also wrote, "My heart is still open, and I'm not afraid of love." Days turned into weeks, and the market became something more than a weekend hobby. A small newspaper wrote an article about local food sellers, and they mentioned me. I received a call from a woman named Priya who ran a new co-working space for women. "We're looking for someone to run a small cafe in our space," she said. "It wouldn't be full-time at first, but it's a paid opportunity. Would you be interested?" I sat with the phone in my hand, heart racing. I hadn't imagined anything like this. A year ago, I was crying on the kitchen floor. Now, someone wanted to pay me to bake again. I said yes. The new cafe space was small but full of light. I decorated it with fresh flowers and handwritten menu signs. I used old recipes and some new ones I had created over the past months. I named it Marie's, in honor of my aunt. On the wall, I placed a framed page from her green notebook that read, "Life listens to your belief." It felt right. She had started this journey without even knowing it. Opening day was simple. Just tea, biscuits, and some friends. But when I looked around the room, I saw familiar faces. Ela, Leo, Anna, Tomas, and even Daniel standing near the corner with a lemon tart in his hand. My heart felt full. Later that night, I sat alone in the new space, the lights soft and the air still smelling like cinnamon. I opened my notebook and wrote one more page. I am no longer afraid of change. I am the change. I no longer chase happiness. I create it. I no longer wait to be saved. I am the one who saves myself. I closed the book, not because the story was ending, but because it was just beginning. Looking back now, I see how small actions changed everything. A green notebook, a job at a quiet cafe, a chance meeting with old and new friends. These things were not accidents. They were signs. Steps on a path I hadn't seen before. And even now, as I still face normal problems, bills, mistakes, doubts, I carry something stronger with me. A deep knowing that no matter what happens, I have the power to shape my life. It all began the day I chose a new thought. And now, every day, I choose again.